Hello guys, this is Omar Garcia. My name is Omar Garcia. This is Case 29, Monitoring Foreign Suppliers. First of all, starting talking about this for many decades around the whole world, in many countries on the whole world, for example, China, Indonesia, Cambodia, Vietnam, etc. There's been a huge problem regarding the human rights activist groups with suppliers, companies in general. Why is this? Because regarding the fact that they were being accused that the companies acquired and ordered products from suppliers who were accused of many hard things regarding their workers. Being that the workers had a lot of problems with that. What problems were they? The countries accused workers being mistreated in their companies. Why was that? Because they were being paid standard pay, they were forced to not work long hours, they were soliciting child labor, they were working in unsafe places, the environment was not good to work for them, they didn't have a good conditioning, they didn't have a good breathing environment and all that. And that was only due because back then there were not many regulations and safety procedures that could help all these people. In fact, a quick fact is that in the 1990s, there was suppliers began to respond to those accusations, and they started having inspections in their supplier manufacturing companies. This was what happened in the 1990s. They acted upon all these accusations. They started having Walmart inspections. They started having all these company inspections, which later on they managed to get out of those inspections and kept working. By having these inspections, companies created some strategies in order to get away from those inspections and to get cleared, so they can go over those inspections and keep working as they would always do. The strategies that were implemented, they would keep two sets of books. What am I talking two sets of books? In two sets of books, they would keep two sets of books, one being the current payment schedule and the other one meeting the minimum wage regulations, only for inspectors. So what they would do is show one book to the inspectors, and the other book they would keep them to themselves. They will also hide unsafe work practices. They will have separate buildings on them. They will have some buildings that were registered and some buildings that were not registered, and they will still work there and all those things. They will hit underage workers. What this will happen most of the time when they had child laborers, they were not supposed to work there. So what they would do, they would hit them when the inspectors would come in, or they would ask them to leave the manufacturer company when they will get in. They would ask them to leave home. In the plant managers and inspection team members, the plant members were also coached. They were new and they were taught on how to respond to all inspection officers. They were coached on what to say if they would get there and when they would get there and all that. But why would they fear this a lot? What was the thing that they fear a lot about this? It was that workers fear retribution from the plant executives, which made workers keep the information to themselves. That's why they never said nothing, because they were fearing that they would get their job done and they would not get the job anymore. They will not get paid and they will get fired from that job. And you can see right here they had scripts made regarding to touching overtime hours, wages, working hours, and work safety. They had practices. They had questions made for all these different, you could say, terms, but they were already taught and trained to respond to all of these questions when the inspectors came in. Examples regarding all this with Nike and Walmart that are the ones that presented in this case was that this company started to work with suppliers to improve the production environment, manufacturing plants, and working conditions. These were one of the two major companies that started to work in this, and they started to change and find a solving the strategies in order to focus on the minimum wage regulations, child labor, the forced labor elimination, and the safer working environment. These two companies were the ones who started to look into this in order so they could have better improved production and working environments in their manufacturing plants. When coming to the implemented strict codes of these companies, As we could see in these pictures, right here in the bottom, these were the codes that were implemented to them. Why was that? Because they always had the bad environment. They didn't have safety equipment on them. They didn't have that much space to work in. They had to work long hours. The strict codes that they tried to implement it on the workers and environments were that in 1981 they had to implement a specific age that you could work in these departments. For example, in 1998 they implemented 16. You have to be age of 16 to work in the apparel, and you have to be at age of 18 regarding to the footwear. That was the codes they implemented, yet they didn't follow them. When coming to Nike inspection, Nike started to have an inspection model in which they performed their own staff. Why was that? Nike was really smart because they hired their own specific inspectors from their own company that they could overdo and overplay in order for them to keep working. As you can see, in 2003, they joined this Fair Labor Association, in which if they would fail to pass the regulations, they would just cut off for their suppliers. So let's say Nike had this company that would supply all the materials from them. What they would do, if that company couldn't accomplish to work with the inspectors and pass the inspection, the only thing that they would do is just stop the trading or buying products from them. That would be the only thing that they would do. When coming to Walmart, they did the same thing. They did something about the same. The only thing that they did is that they worked with another company. The FLA, the team conductor, they were the ones that conducted the regulatory inspections and recorded all the non-compliance and indecencies, you could say, about that. Even in 1992, Walmart set up these principles. After 10 years, the organization thought of its own demand for new and data providers called the Global Program and Service Group. This group were the ones that were, you could say, managed, or were the ones that were in charge of doing all these regulations and compliances for Walmart. When coming to the ethical issues of these both companies, most companies engage practices in ways that they will be morally and ethically wrong. Why was this? Because back then, the Chinese in 2006 stated that they would only earn 0.64 cents an hour. That would be the minimum wage they had. Why was that? Chinese were not expecting to pay people that much because they were looking to make more profit. In 2006, every person that worked in the Chinese, in Nike and Walmart, in other companies that they were not them, they will get paid 0.64 per hour in an average of 80 hours a week. Which, if you could do the math right now, you will need to be, and legally you will need to be paid overtime. If we would do the calculation, being paid overtime, then they literally have been paid 0.42 cents an hour when counting the overtime hours, because they wouldn't be paid overtime. So this became something very evident for the plants, because what was that? They would do all the low cost work for a low cost, which managed for them to have a higher profit. You can see right here, they adopted many different practices in order to pass inspections. Why was that? Because what they did is that they ensured them that they would pass the inspections, but they never passed them. Because all these practices were meant to improve the production of the environment, but they never did it. They always failed. The only thing that they could do is that the accounting for installment of wages would help them to get the inspections passed. In reality, they will be failing inspections most of the time. As you can see right here, I just gave an example on how they will failed to pass inspections. Yet they had a lot of records presented in these facts that they will have a specification on the payment schedules, on the working hours, on the schedules and all that. Yet they managed to pass the inspections. They managed because they had records on regular working shifts. Yet they found other documents that contradicted those working schedules, and they had more working hours on those schedules, which were not working hours. We will be talking about 3 or 5 more hours in each day that a person would work instead of working the 8 hours a day. Sorry about not doing this, but in the suppliers, this was the way that they would do that. They would work with the subcontracting suppliers, which will help them, and they would only pass inspection without being able to improve their standards. So they legally or lawly, you could say, they didn't pass the inspections, but they managed to work with the subcontracting suppliers to pass the inspections and keep working. Right here, I just say that, coming back to what I said before, in the no wage payment requirement for the workers provided, we could see that they didn't have a minimum wage. This back then helped all the companies out because they didn't have a minimum wage. They will pay them, so they were making a lot of profit. That was why they were making a lot of profit back then, because they will pay workers a very little amount of money, which will later generate them more revenue, more profit. For example, Nike and Walmart are some of the companies that play some of the best inspections. These were the only companies that changed the complaint systems, that changed the startup practices in order to get over all those malpractices, those mistreats on the workers. This was a good thing because they were the ones who implemented the regulatory inspections on their own companies. They were the ones who started it in order for all the other people to see what they were doing. You can see right here I got some cartoons of people that say we really care about the inspections of people, how they work, the safety procedures they offer right now, and they do. It takes effort to secure all machinery. This will give you an efficient product. And this inspection going right there. Walmart had a different way of making inspection regulatory systems. They had a program in which they rated their suppliers in the green, yellow, orange, red. Yet, all of this was just put into the environment of the suppliers in order for them to know which regulations they were standing for, how they were working, if they were going to pass inspection or not. This was basically to let all the people know how they were doing. Red will be as you know, the bad inspection, not being able to work, and green being clear to go. I forgot to come back with this. When providing the green, yellow, or orange, red, the work is evaluated. The red was prohibited from providing for Walmart and showing requests. Follow the measures initiated, not completely, but in setting the climate of the providence, they wanted to improve their value to reach every cover of the cost when coming to these standards. When coming to the economic performance in the CSR, for 5 years, what they started doing, Nike improved the upward trajectory. They improved on everything. They had an uphill, they started going up, they started making a lot of revenue. As you could see, they had an improvement figure of 17.59% of what they had done that year before. So Nike was going up. The revenue was going up. All the companies were going up when coming to them. As you can see, it's a short graph that you can see how the revenue went up from the back then, 2014 to 46, 40, 2015 at a 50, 55. We were talking about that 70% that went up higher on the graph, and it was going uphill. That was going real good, as you can see right here in November 30, 2012 and February 2011, 2014. When the party took place, the pattern showed a steady improvement in this figure, which is a 17.59%. On the other hand, Walmart was all the way opposite, because what did they show? They showed something opposite from Nike. They showed a constant decline. They were going down in both their ROA and their ROE compared to Nike. As we can see, it has been doing 78% of the waste of landfills and burnings. Nike has joined the assembling of the footwear, clothing, using reused materials, believe in producing waste into energy and use of water. This was how I say this, because that was one of the major difference that Walmart had with Nike. In Walmart, there's a graph to show the decline it had from 2014, 2015, the one I'm talking right now here, the decline it had. It was almost all decline. They were going on in the company, they were not making that much revenue. So when coming to a performance on environmental sustainability, according to Walmart's sustainability report, they launched programs on the reduced greenhouse gas emissions, which is this model. As you can see right here, it's very blurry right now. But this was an example of the greenhouse gas emissions. They started to look a lot into recycling and reusing, and trying to work on the help the environment and the water and all that. But they were not really doing that. Why was that? They recorded a reduction on the annual greenhouse gases in 2017. Yet, when coming to Nike, they also reported the same thing. That they have been using recycling resources for footwear and apparel on this material. Yet, they only reported. In the long time, we couldn't see it. Walmart reported that they had used waste, landfills to use the renewable electricity for Walmart, and Nike just reported that they were using recycled material to make their shoes. Right here, this is a real famous shoe that just came out a few years ago, that they literally got like millions of shoes they had made, just crumbled it up, got all the material again, and that's why this sole became very famous, because it was in part of all the shoes in the world, just the basic garbage crushed up, and they came out. This is just an example for you to get the idea. But they implemented the code of confidence. Sorry about that. I went straight about that right there. So they reported that they were doing a change in that, but in fact they were not doing it. They showed on the facts and the data that they were reducing the waste and going into a more environmental sustainability. Yet they weren't doing it. It was just marketing. They really never got to that point. On the environmental issues regarding to Walmart, they implemented code of compliance, which was just how to make action into this, how to eliminate all the malpractices in the production source, how to eliminate all the corruption, all the long working hours, the mistreating of the workers and all that. The good thing is that both of the companies were able to completely get into good rate, to eliminate the price of payment, employment age, working hours, what I just said. They succeeded on helping workers out in order for have more environmental duties, in order to not be neglected. Those are my references. Those conclude my presentation. Thank you.